All right, what is going on, Fuse fan? Brian Lapine here with you again at Fitness Fusion, another episode of Fix Your Form. And today we're going to tackle the side or lateral lunge. We've already done a forward and reverse lunge, so now let's take a look at the lateral. Brief visual overview here. I'm going to just show you a body weight, but eventually you'll have a weight held up top, goblet style. And when I don't have weight, I like to keep my hands in the general vicinity where they'd be when you do have weight. So just to get yourself in the right position. But you're gonna lunge out to the side. Planted leg stays nice and straight. Big hinge at the hips. I'll show you from another angle. So I'm just gonna lunge now straight to the side. I'm gonna try to keep my chest proud and back flat. All right, so big hinge, drive back to tall. Okay, so the lateral lunge is a lower body exercise. You're gonna target though, mainly you're gonna feel a stretch on your inner thigh. When you're in the down position, let me show you from the front. When you're in this position, you're gonna first notice probably a stretch on your inner thigh from the planted leg, and also a stretch on your glutes when you are driving your hips diagonally behind you. When you drive back up, you get a lot of quads and some hamstrings as well. It's also a good hip mobility exercise. If you don't have a lot of hip mobility, this might be a tough one for you. If you notice you can't get into that range of motion, I would recommend working on some hip mobility first before trying this fairly advanced exercise. Mistake number one that people make is that they try to go heavy weighted before they've mastered the exercise, just body weight. So I want you guys to master it body weight first before you've been touching a weight. It doesn't matter what you're holding, kettlebell, dumbbell, you can even hold weights below you, but master it body weight first. I like to keep my hands here, as I mentioned previously. However, if you want for a little bit of extra counterbalance help, you can keep your arms straight out in front. So I'll show you from the side. If you prefer, this will help you counterbalance and actually get your body into a good position. When you have a weight in front of you, that counterbalance is for you, but it's going to be a little bit easier to get into that position, body weight, if you keep your arms out straight. If you have the range of motion and all the hips and the mobility for it and all the joints, then you can keep your arms closed when you do a body weight, all right? Mistake number two. This one happens right off the bat, right in the beginning of the exercise. If my left leg here is my planted leg, I want to keep it straight the whole way down and the whole way up. So this is what it should look like. Straight, 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 and then straight all the way as I drive back to tall. The mistake though is that this knee is going to bend. So it's almost like a squat-ish on the way down, and then they'll bend it on the way back up as well. So even like when you're down here, I'm not really in a lateral lunge, I'm more like in a sumo squat, right? So leg has to stay straight the whole way. If you need to slow it down, reduce the range of motion, that's fine. Make sure you get that leg straight first, and then the range of motion will come with time and practice. Mistake number three. This one is probably the longest and most in-depth of all the mistakes, and it's because there's different segments of it. So this one has to do with the position of your hip, your knee, and your foot on the leg that's traveling. So the first thing that I like to tell people is you're gonna find the right range of motion which allows you to get deepest into the lunge. If I go too small of a step, I'm kind of stuck here. I can't go down. If I go too big, too stretched. So you have to first find that range of motion. For me, I have it down. I've done it so many times. I know exactly where my foot's going to land. All right. That is first. After that, you're going to work on your hip driving diagonally back. I think you guys can see that door in the picture, but I'm going to visualize I'm going with my right hip hip diagonally back to the door behind me. Let me show you from the side. Hip is going to go diagonally back now. And what that's going to do is shift my body weight right over this planted foot, which makes it more effective of an exercise when I have to drive back up off that planted foot. Okay, so once you have that down, you're getting your perfect stance, you're driving your hip diagonally back. Now I have to worry about my knee and my foot. So no matter what position your foot's in, you want your knee to track over the toes, just like if you were doing a squat or a forward lunge or a reverse lunge. If you are going to go out, well, the next thing is you don't want to angle your foot out too far, because then your knee would have to go way over, and it just is not the same exercise. I like to tell people to get their foot almost straight, parallel to their planted foot. So I'm here, they're both straight forward. My knee is going to track over, directly over that planted foot, and then back up. If you lunge and you have a little bit of angle in your foot, that's okay, but make sure your knee is also angled out as well. Your hips are going to be different than the next person, so see what allows you the greater range of motion. All right, so really quick, again, it's going to be drive hips diagonally back, foot is going to be forward or slightly angled out, knee tracks over the toe. Go really slow with it and experiment, practice, see what works best for you, and you will figure it out. Mistake number 4. This one is very common anytime there's an exercise that involves hinging at the hips. So it is the back rounding. When you hinge at your hips, it has to be a tight core and a back flat. Doesn't matter if you're doing RDLs or bent over rows. Hinging at the hips, same thing with your lateral lunge. I'm showing you from the side, lateral lunge. I have my chest still proud, my back is flat. What you don't want to do, and let me show you the weight, because usually when people start doing it with a weight and a heavier weight and then a heavier weight, that's when they're going to be pulled forward a bit, and the round would occur towards the bottom of the range of motion. Now it's okay to lean forward with the upper body on the lateral lunge. Actually, you want the body to be angled. If I try to keep my upper body straight up, my hip would have to stay right underneath me, and that's not what I want. Remember, we're angling the hip back, so therefore the upper body has to lean forward a little bit. I like to see about a 45-degree angle in the body, so not trying to stay too tall, but also not trying to get too far bent over. But make sure your core is tight, your chest is up, your back is flat, and no rounding trying to get yourself further into that range of motion. Mistake number 5. And this one is the one that we will tackle on almost every single fixture form. It is the range of motion. Always crucial, so make sure you get it right. If you are struggling with the range of motion, I have my handy dandy box here. This is going to be a target, and you should be able to hit a target with your butt, and you can see the box is maybe, I don't know, an inch or two below my knee. So I'm going to aim to hit that. If you can't hit a box that's a couple inches below your knee, you need to increase your range of motion on the exercise. So I'm going to set up away from it, and I'm going to lateral lunge towards it. I'm just going to try to hit my left glute right to that box while keeping a nice straight leg, proud chest, and then draw it back up. So coming down, hitting, and going. If you can get deeper, great. You have more than enough range of motion. But if you can't quite get to this point, an inch or two below your knee, you need to increase the range of motion. It's probably the mobility of your hips. So do some hip opening exercises. It could also be a tightness on the inner thigh, because that's where you're going to feel the most stretch. So you would have to stretch your inner thighs. The combination of those two things, though, if you attack both of those and correct both, you should see that range of motion allowing you to get way lower to a target, hit it, and then go. Last but not least, of course, is modifications of the exercise. It's a fairly difficult exercise to get into that range of motion. And you know, if you have any issues at all with your hips, your knees, your ankles, your core stability and strength, you might not be ready for this advanced move yet. However, if you're looking for modifications that not quite as hard as the original, the entire lateral lunge, we're going to look at two. The first one is called a split lateral lunge. So all you're going to do is start with your stance that you would have gotten into after the wide step, and you're going to stay split. You're going to lunge to one side, come tall, and then lunge to the next. This is also a good way to warm up for the entire full lateral lunge and kind of get the stretch, open the hips up a bit, stretching your thigh, still driving your hip diagonally back behind you. All right, and then the next one, a little bit more challenging, is a split low transfer lateral lunge. Start the same, but now you're going to try to stay low as you go side to side. This is both a modification and a progression. In some ways, it's harder than the original because you're keeping the tension on the legs while you transfer in between. So there's both a modification and a progression for you. If you guys have any questions, please make sure to comment below. And as always, if you don't mind helping me out, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you want more tutorials, and comment, let me know if you want to see any exercise in particular. Happy to help, always looking for suggestions, and we'll see you guys next time on Fix Your Form.